Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into. Damn, I don't even know what's the day. Tuesday. You're tuned into rhetorically speaking on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. I guess that's some sort of alliteration. I know folk not used to seeing me, when the sun is up. However, this evening show has been kicking my behind, trying to get it in, having a newborn, being in school, the same stuff I complain about all the time, right? By the time 6:30 come, for y'all who want to have a nice little wine, caliente. Is it caliente? No, that's hot. What do you say in Silence of the Lambs? Some fava beans and a nice, whatever it is, some wine. You know what I'm talking about, right? Um, and so I found myself just being exhausted. So now, right now, I'm just playing around with different times because I do enjoy this, not because anybody tunes in, but because it makes me feel good being able to have conversations to engage folk, whether it's one follower, whether it's yeah, shout out to Rest Counseling. Chiante, it might be Chiante. I have no idea what Chiante is. Uh, but I just like this is what I enjoy doing. And sometimes we forget to do the things that we enjoy just because we enjoy them. It's no metrics, even though there are metrics attached to this, right? Viewership and YouTube wants to send me the numbers, and Spotify and all these different places want to send me the numbers. It could be real discouraging if you're not one of those folk who are seeing 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000 people tuning in or more, right? But we just got to keep it true to and keep it at the essence of what it is that we do and why we do it. So hence the reason why I'm here at 2 o'clock. You might see me sometimes at 11 o'clock. I'm just gonna let the spirit move, like the religious folk be saying. So shout out to those of you who are tuned in on Instagram Live. As always, I recommend that you tune in on YouTube. Props to everyone who is watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button just so if I do come on at a 9:30 or a 2 p.m. or a 6 p.m. that you get notified. And last but certainly not least, props to everyone who is watching on Facebook. So I'm not on Facebook anymore. I had to make that business decision. It just was nothing happening over there. I couldn't get people riled up. Right, you know what I like to do. Let's not pretend like we don't know who Phil Roundtree is at this point. Good Lord, I got somebody trying to get into the Zoom meeting. Can't get in just yet. You gotta let me do this my 1-2 thing real quick before I bring folk on. um, so yeah, I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'll still keep that page active because you can automatically have content go there like this live stream is. But catch me on Instagram, catch me on Twitter, Phil underscore Roundtree. So we're gonna get started. And oh, the reason why I wanted to have these conversations is because I've been having these conversations all weekend on my social media feeds. I've seen some folk who've chimed in on my posts regarding Kanye and regarding Jussie Smollett, their respective situations. Jussie being sentenced for his alleged hate crime hoax. I'm always going to say alleged whenever somebody is convicted of a crime. Why? Because I don't trust the government. I do not trust the government, right? We know that it's folk who are in jail convicted of a crime that they did not commit. With that being said, you will not hear me say that Jussie Smollett didn't make all this shit up. You will not hear me say that. It's sort of like OJ, the juice, when he allegedly killed that white woman, Nicole Brown Simpson. God bless the dead. I don't want to make it seem like I'm talking greasy about her. She was murdered, right? Her and Ronald Goldman, I believe that was his name. They were both murdered in cold blood, and it's unfortunate. And allegedly, OJ did it. But my blackness will never allow me to say that OJ did it. I don't care if if OJ goes back to dating white women, I don't care if he goes back to uh running through the airport in Hertz commercials. I will never say that OJ did it. I will never say that OJ did not do it, but you will never hear me say that OJ did it. Why? Because it's this idea of, first, black protectionism, right? And one of the reasons why people are sticking up for Jussie, a specific population may appear to be sticking up for Jussie. When it came to OJ, we recognize that all the injustices within the legal system that black folk have experienced, and they're like, listen, we don't care if he did it or not. It's not about guilt or innocence at this point. We just happy that we got one. And unfortunately, this spits in the face of humanity. But what it does do, it makes us recognize how real imperialism, white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy are. Because because we've adopted this mindset where we have to get one. Because why? Because even when you do get convicted of a crime and you go do your time, you still gonna have folk who will never give you that, give you an opportunity. They don't want you to get a fair shake. We could see Mike Vick for that, and we was talking about dogs there. Now I don't want people to think again, oh, I'm so anti, or I'm pro dog fighting. None of that. No, I recognize culture. I recognize what dogfighting means in certain cultures, just like chicken fighting in certain cultures. But it pales into comparison when we're talking about human life. Again, why black folk had to rally, and we did rally and continue to rally around Mike Vick or any other black person who comes in contact with the legal system. But for some reason, it seems to be an exception for Jussie Smollett. Now, I'm not going to rehash the details or what we think are the details when it comes to his case. They say that he orchestrated a hate crime where he had a noose around his neck. He was at Subway and something involving two big African men. I don't know. I wasn't there. I ain't gonna say it happened. I'm not gonna say it's not don't happen. And you can show me the video, and I think the folks said this video out there. You can show me Jussie sitting there planning it out with the Africans, with the text messages. He could be rolling the noose up, right, and putting it on himself. I could sit there and watch that, and you will still never hear me say Jussie lying. You won't hear me say Jussie lying when it comes to legal proceedings. But subsequently, he was found guilty. Right? He was found guilty. He was sentenced to 150 days in prison and several years on felony probation. Now, when I saw the verdict, I immediately said this was excessive. When I heard that they were actually taking whatever plea deal that they had on the table that they had already agreed to, and they were taking it off because they were that upset. The waste of resources, right? The manpower, taxpayers' money. He needs to go to jail. When I saw that, I said, listen, this is still excessive. If he did indeed do it, apologize, throw him some money like everybody else does, and keep it moving. But unfortunately, and this is where the police got to say, and Chicago police are like, no, we got to get one. The prosecution is like, nah, we got to get one. And so unfortunately, Jussie Smollett is that one. And so, yes, he was sentenced to 150 days in county lockup. I did 2 days in county. It's not for me. It wasn't for me. but it was a result of racism as well, right? It's kind of, you know how they are when it comes to disparities in penalties when it comes to black and brown folk. It's kind of excessive. And so I believe this is where I took issue with what happened to Jussie. Is because this appears to be excessive. This appears to be punitive. Because if we're talking about the purpose of prison, and again, I'm like an abolitionist light. I'm still trying to figure out where I stand on certain violent crimes specifically, and how that relates to consequences. That's the reason why I say abolitionist light. But I know for that alleged crime, that penalty just doesn't fit. But again, you're trying to prove a point. What is the point exactly? Because if we're talking about proving a point, I need data. Maybe it's the lower level researcher in me. I need some data. You have to let me know that this is a problem, that this is a consistent problem. For me to say there needs to be this is some type of teachable moment. Show me numbers of people who are actively faking hate crimes. I just don't think that data exists. Conversely, I would love for the Chicago PD and the Chicago, I guess what the district attorney, the Chicago district attorney, to show me numbers on prosecuted hate crimes in Chicago. Show me when somebody calls up and they say, "Listen, this has happened to me." Is it investigated with the same vigor that they investigated and subsequently convicted Jussie Smollett with? I mean, we sitting here and it's this white woman, right? Who's probably making tea as we speak. And she's the reason why Emmett Till was murdered. She divulged to a reporter that she lied, which subsequently caused the murder of Emmett Till. And where? Chicago. And so it's like, whoa. If we got to can we put Jussie to the back burner? If you do decide to prosecute him, all right, whatever. But can we put him here? Can we go get this white woman who's been living life free for 50, 60 years? Can we go do something to her? Because otherwise, this is all a sham. Which, of course, we know the whole entire legal system is what? It's a sham. Now, one thing that I did see, and I saw people making a lot of jokes about it, was this clip that I am about to play. So bear with me. Still trying to get in the hang of playing videos and such. Let me see.
I am not suicidal. That's what I was about to say. Okay. I am not suicidal. Okay? I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I am not suicidal. Okay.
I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal. I heard the jokes, right? Jussie, just shut up. Go be quiet. Just go do your time like a what? Like a man. Right? Because we always got to throw that unhealthy masculinity in there. And I'm gonna touch on that as well. But Jussie, we're not trying to hear this. You lied. And yes, there's a possibility that he lied. Yes, there's a possibility that he caused harm. Right? I can acknowledge that if indeed he wasn't telling the truth. But when I hear I am not suicidal, I am not suicidal, what I hear is somebody saying, and as he said, if something happens to me in this prison, know that I was not suicidal. See, it's all cool, right? It's all cool, and we want to be we want to be social justice advocates, social justice warriors. We want to talk about how they murdered Sandra Bland, right? Imagine if she was on a video and she said that I am not suicidal, and Sandra Bland ended up murdered like I strongly believe she was. Then how will we look at it, right? If we believe her 100%, if we believe the fact that she was murdered 100%, that takes it up to at least 5,000%. Because we know the mental state, the psyche prior to them entering this cesspool that's designed to break you. And so I don't see how we can have the jokes on one end where we're talking about Jussie and saying I am not suicidal, but then we sit there and we say Sandra Bland wasn't suicidal. And be angry when she's murdered, and rightfully so. It's just not aligning. And so recently, especially with the uprisings that we've had, a lot of social justice advocates have told people to say, listen, if you're in front of people, say, I am not suicidal. Because why? Just in case something happened to me in here, you know what my mindset was and what it was not. Is it hard to believe that the vigor that they prosecuted Jussie with, that there may not be consequences within the confines of a prison, or excuse me, a jail? Because some folk want to make the distinction. Hell is hell, right? Don't matter if it got a basketball court in one or a barbecue pit in the other. It's still hell. If you believe in those certain things. You know, I don't subscribe to that. Right? But I think people want to see, and this is part and parcel of the issue, where people want to see Jussie penalized and they want to see him suffer. For no other reason, in my opinion, than him being a black queer man. Because otherwise, why would you want to see somebody go to jail? I think that's a safe word, right? I ain't got to say county prison, jail. Because jail could be top, it could be mid-tier, it could be lower level. Yeah, right? Because why would you want to see him go to jail? Because he needs consequences. And so you think jail is a consequence that folks should have to experience? Again, it talks about the warped psyche of Western civilization, especially here in America, where our incarceration rates are sky high. But these are the same people who come out and say you shouldn't jail somebody for weed. It's weed. Right? So tell me, is it like and I tried to ask some folk that who had this way of thinking that he shouldn't be that he should experience consequences for folk who've sold drugs, who've had victimless crimes. My bad. I was sitting there reading with the good brother. Shout out to Yamir tuned in what he was saying in the chat. But we can advocate for individuals of victimless crimes here, even though again, selling drugs, we can argue about all of this. Is any of this victimless? Is any crime victimless? We can have that argument. Somebody's being impacted. It's just what magnitude. So you can't say free my homie Timothy. All he did was sell a little weed, but then on this end, say Jussie got to have consequences. Or maybe you can, and there's just some cognitive dissonance that's taking place. Yamir says, I think that those who want to see him in jail want to see him in there, not because he's whatever he is, but because he potentially lied about a hate crime. No, that's not it. Because do you really care about somebody lying about a hate crime? Like if we're gonna be real, we gotta keep it all the way funky. Do you really care about somebody lying about a hate crime? No, most folk don't. Right? Especially because we don't. That's not how we're. That isn't who we are as a community in this sense. We're very individualized. And so we see so much happening, right, that we ignore. Now we want to step up to the plate. Now it's the line of the hate crime. Like, nah, that's masking something. That's masking. We got to go deeper than that. Because hate crimes happen every day, B. And when I say hate crimes, when you walk into the store, when you walk in the Target and they following you around the Target, that's a hate crime. It may not meet the statute of, it may not meet the statute to where somebody can be arrested, but it's still a hate crime. And again, for me, it's something to the effect of, what is it about sending somebody to jail? Like, why are we so hell-bent to send somebody to jail because they lied about a hate crime? Are there no other consequences? Could he have not been placed on house arrest for 150 days? Let's say we go with this, you need consequences. $20,000 fine? I think the initial plea deal was like 10,000 in some community service. Community service? Why jail? Because we've been programmed to believe that jail is the place where you go, when you make an unhealthy decision. Doesn't matter the level. Yamir says, I just don't agree with people wanting him to go to jail because he's gay. And again, and that's like saying, let's see if I can make it a little bit more clear. I don't think people are saying, listen, he's gay, he needs to go to jail. But what I will say is that a lot of the reasoning and the justification that people are saying he needs to go to jail is not given to other individuals. They're not used to advocate on behalf of other individuals or against. And so then we also got to understand, again, the culture that we are talking about here. We're talking about black folks telling another black person, you need to go to jail. There's something warped with that. So, all right, let me take it. Maybe it's not because he's queer. Right? Maybe it's because he's a black queer man. Maybe it's because your mind has been colonized. I repeat, maybe it's because your mind has been colonized to where you can only view consequences from the perspective of the oppressor. Right? So let's say, even though I do think that it is partially because of how we view black queer folk, especially black queer men in the black community, I think there's an underlying resentment which is rooted in fear towards Jussie. But even this idea of consequences, you go to jail. That's a colonizer's mindset. Shout out to Kerwin, who is tuned in on Instagram. He says, it's not the same investment with Jussie because he is queer. He is eliminated from bringing a black man down narrative. Well stated. Well stated. But there's something fundamentally wrong when we automatically jump to your consequence should be jail. Because I see excuses made for so many people so many times. But when we talk about this hierarchy in the black community, heterosexual black men, heterosexual black women, then we start bringing in our LGBTQ plus folk, and then we can even start lining them up, right? So we'll put our black queer women here, our black gay men here, our black trans women here, right? We still follow this system that has done us a disservice, that has fragmented, that has fractured rather the black community for centuries. And so when I hear folks say he needs to go to prison, you might as well just say, yes, massa. Yes, I's do it. I's gonna keep looking and watch on alls them. You go heads, you go lay down and use go, I'll get your slippers. But I'm gonna go watch them to make sure, because we's gotta make sure we get our money. Word. And so with that said, we're gonna keep the party going. Matter of fact, maybe not. And so I'm gonna read this comment from Ymir again. Shout out to you for tuning in. He's being made an example out of, in my opinion. Imagine if he was not lying, right? And there really was a hate crime. America would go crazy. They just could not have that. In my opinion, this punishment doesn't fit the crime, but the example is being made. And again, and I touched on that a little bit earlier. But when we talk about the example, I just don't know too many individuals who are going around, quote unquote, faking hate crimes. And so there's no precedent, so no example needs to be set. It's like the conversation when it comes to women who lie right about a sexual assault. Yes, what, 2 to 3% of them may lie about a sexual assault, but what about the other 97% of women who are telling the truth? So do we really need to make an example of the 2% who lies? Should we maybe offer a consequence? A fine? Verbal reprimand? Or prison? I don't know. I just, for me, that just don't sit right. And when we talk about not sitting right, we're going to get into this conversation on y'all man's, not mine. And I hate the fact that I've had to relinquish rights to him being soundtrack to my existence, at least during my college years anyway. This boy Kanye West. Now I've sat for the last few years, I've talked about how problematic his behavior has become. I still and will continue to attribute it to untreated mental health, right? Not undiagnosed mental health, maybe misdiagnosed mental health, but not undiagnosed mental health. And it's untreated, as he's open and honest and transparent about. It's untreated because we can see how he vacillates between these this mania, this uh this lack of ability to control his behaviors, this heightened impulsivity, which has him tweeting up a storm every few minutes. And so I've been trying to analyze it. I've been trying to, and honestly, shoot him bail. Because again, what do we do when we like somebody, when we care about somebody? We shoot him bail. We ain't like Jussie anyway. He was the gay boy from Empire, right? So why would we ever shoot him bail? He ain't make college dropout. He ain't make late registration. He ain't make graduation. He can't rap. So we find ourselves shooting bail to individuals who are knowingly being toxic in their presentation and in their behaviors to not only those they care about, but to the world. Run around saying I'm an independent thinker. No such thing, number one, is an independent thinker. Because why? We're all influenced some way, somehow. Right? And so when it comes to him, I sat and I watched over the last few months, not because I wanted to, just because you can't get on social media without seeing his antics. People care. He's top billing. We know that he and his wife Kim Kardashian West, they're separated. She's off dealing with the Pete Davidson character. He's trying to find love or happiness or attention in these other outlets with these other women. Cool. I give a damn about that. But what's been problematic is the increase in abusive behaviors that he's demonstrated on social media, and how I'm seeing people justify his unhealthy, domestically violent behaviors day in and day out. And I think for me, the last straw, right? Because we all have this like line of demarcation that we're either going to step over or we're not going to, that it takes for us to get to this point where it's just like, nah, I can't do it anymore. And so for him, it reached a head when I continuously see this abusive behavior. Now you may be saying, well, what about the behaviors are abusive? One of the most abusive domestically violent behaviors that I've seen, and let's get that notion out of our head that domestic violence is only physical. No, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. That too is domestic violence. But when we talk about physical actions, she doesn't want to have contact with you. There is a system that'll help you navigate that, and you have enough money to where you can potentially navigate that with more success than other folk out here. But you do not have her phone number. She refuses. This is how she keeps her distance. Maybe we need an intermediary to come in between. But no, you will not have access to me, because we see what access looks like to him. And so he goes and gets a phone number from somebody else. How disgusting was that? That is violent. That is violent behavior demonstrated by an unwell person. We see him going back and forth between I want my wife back and being out here. Okay, fine. You can express yourself. You can express your love for your wife all you want on social medias. Is that unhealthy? Probably. Ignoring her wishes, that toxic, you know I hate the term toxic, but yes, extremely toxic behavior. Critiquing her parenting skills in public. Is that problematic? Yes, it is. I see irony when he says that I don't want North to be on TikTok, but she's on there. And you see the different environments that North has been in with him. None of my business though. Again, I could care less about the specifics. What I'm speaking about primarily is the unhealthy dynamic, the domestic violence that is taking place between this man and this woman. And how many men specifically do not see it and subsequently become complicit in what's taking place. Now, over the weekend, I saw this clip from DL Hughley that I am about to play, and it's one that it resonated with me.
I think that I've watched too many times where things like that happen and a woman or somebody's not believed and then things escalate.
Yeah.
He is stalking her. You could think it's cute. If it was my daughter, I'd do something about it. I don't think it's funny. I think that you can't write a beat so good that you get to do these things. And society laughs it off because they say, well, she showed her ass all the time and he's this and he's that and that. At a certain point, it is not unusual for men like that. The only difference between him and a restraining order is about 20 hits and a couple of $100 million. I just don't think it's funny. I think that Kanye wouldn't.
And so I have a lot of critique on DL Hughley and his perspective on various things, even with regards to this situation and his antics after this statement that he made. But I 100% agree. He is stalking this individual based on the information that we have that's posted to social media. But the broader point is, I watch a lot of ID channel. I watch a lot of Oxygen channel. I'm trying to get away from it because I don't need to be ingesting crime. I don't need to be ingesting trauma on a regular basis. But what I do know from what I've watched and from my professional experience as a therapist, right, and all that other jazz. But what I know from watching ID and Oxygen is that behaviors escalate. Men who kill their partners or kill their ex-spouses, it don't just start the day they kill them. It starts with not respecting boundaries, not adhering to boundaries. It starts with veiled threats towards their partners, their new partners. Unhealthy imagery of burying people. And so it escalates until this individual loses all of their impulse control and ends up violently hurting or killing said ex-partner. And so, as D.L. Hughley said, this is not funny. This is not healthy. This isn't just their relationship that they need to handle. That's such an antiquated way to look at relationships, interpersonal relationships, intimate relationships. This is why so many of y'all grandparents were in abusive relationships and y'all just now finding out because we kept it in house. This is why so many of you are dealing with generational trauma because nobody called a spade a spade. He's doing what he got to do for his kids. Again, this the unhealthy commentary that I've been seeing. And so who steps in and says, listen, this shouldn't be this way? And so after making that video, Kanye came out and he tried to deflect. He tried to talk about black fathers and various other things. Or maybe I may have my timeline mixed up. That may have been before, right? But it all happened within the span of several days. And so, yes, we know that black fathers are marginalized in the eyes of society. But dog, this that you doing is completely unacceptable and unhealthy. And so who's going to step up and say, listen, this is problematic? Who's around him to do that? It ain't Future. Enabling. I just got finished watching the game on Drink Champs. No, it's not going to be him. Because we hear the way that individuals, and again, we talk about this idea of patriarchy. And these types of oppressive behaviors. And so it's more important to be liked by one's peers. That's the Amazon man, had me a little nervous. It's more important to be liked by one's peers, to not step on anybody's toes, to say, hey, that's their situation. Let's let them be, than it is to step up and get out ahead of it and say, no, this is unacceptable. Now, y'all, we still gonna go buy the Yeezys. I don't know what's happening. Somebody not respecting what's happening over here. No, we still going to go buy the Yeezys. We still going to stream these albums. We still going to go buy STEM players. And this is how we as a community, we as a society are complicit in acts of violence, in acts of terror like this. And so hopefully after these conversations, we sit and reflect. Hopefully we sit and think about how are we complicit in maintaining white supremacy when it comes to the criminal justice system. In maintaining white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism and yada, yada, yada. When it comes to these acts of domestic violence. And so you still can hear me. The video went out, right? Because Zoom, I don't know why Zoom's saying I got a 40-minute time limit. I pay for this. But you dig what I'm saying. And so I was closing up shop anyway. So with that said, until next time, it's going to be another time. I'm not sure when, but I appreciate you tuning in. Peace.